Welcome to this section of the tutor where you're going to work some multiplication problems and you're going to get some practice solving multiplication problems. Before we get into the actual solving of the problems, I want to make very sure that you understand that it is very important to go and learn your multiplication tables. I know they're not that fun, I know they're not the most exciting thing in the world, but you have to learn them because if you don't, you're just going to get behind in this stuff and it's not going to make sense and you're going to be left kind of wondering exactly what's going on. So if you don't know your multiplication tables or if you don't know them that well, take a minute to go look at your multiplication tables, take a look at them, practice them. Every day you should go through your multiplication tables until you remember them. You can also play the section of the DVD that you have here that'll kind of go through your times tables and do that over and over again, and believe it or not, after a while you'll just remember them because you're going to use them a lot, okay? So let's go ahead and work some multiplication problems. We're going to start out with some easier ones and then we're going to move up from there. So what if you have 5 times 3, okay? They're going to give you the problem like this, written like this, 5 times 3. What I want you to do for each and every problem, just like we did for the addition and subtraction problems, I want you to write one number on the top and the other number on the bottom with an X. And I want you to write them on top of each other. Now, 5 times 3 is pretty easy because it's basically just something you should know from your multiplication tables. Look at your multiplication table and figure out basically what is the answer, okay? And you should be able to remember, eventually remember, the multiplication of any two single-digit numbers. So you should know 5 times 3, you should know 7 times 6, you should know 9 times 9, but nobody's going to expect you to know what 29 times 34 is. Nobody's going to expect you to know what, 14 times 19 is off the top of your head. But you should be able to multiply any two single-digit numbers, okay? So these are single-digit numbers, so you should remember, or at least be able to look it up in the table, what the answer is. 5 times 3 is 15, so you just write 15 down, just like this, okay? You just write 15 down just like this, okay? Now, the next thing would be 7 times 2. That's the next problem, okay? Again, it's a two single-digit number, so I'm just going to write the problem like this. And you should remember from your times tables, or look it up if you don't remember, or go review the section of the DVD. 7 times 2 is 14. So you're going to write that down. Now notice in each of these problems, I'm not doing a lot to explain what's going on here, and that's because multiplication really and truly is a matter of remembering. You're just going to have to go over it over and over again and remember. And once you do that, then these will come very easily. What I'm going to lead up to here is teaching you how to multiply numbers that get bigger and bigger and bigger, where you don't remember the answer, okay? But these, I'm just kind of leading you into it. These are some problems that you should eventually just remember, okay? These single-digit problems here, okay? Again, 6 times 4, okay? You should know what that is. We're going to write it on top of each other with the multiplication symbol. 6 times 4, you should remember from your times tables, is 24. I'm just going to write that down. 6 times 4 is 24. Okay? What about 3 times 3? Okay? I'm going to write that down just like this. And you should remember from your times tables that 3 times 3 is just going to give you 9. Okay? 3 times 3 is 9. So here we have done single-digit problems. And these are digits, these are problems that really you should know from your times tables, or at least that you could look up if you don't remember the answer in your times tables, okay? Now let's move into some more challenging problems. 11 times 4, okay? Some people, many people, memorize the 11 and 12 times tables, okay? And that's fine, you can do that. You can just remember that 11 times 4 is going to give you 44. I know that because I just remember it from when I was little, okay? But I'm going to teach you how to do this without having to remember it, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to write the bigger number on the top, just like we always do, and the smaller number on the bottom, okay? Now here is how you multiply, okay? Again, you start in the right-hand column, okay? You start in the right-hand column. 1 times 4 gives you 4. So you put that down. Remember, anything times 1 is itself. So we're done with this. Now what you have to do with multiplication is you have to kind of put a pivot here. You're going to have to multiply by each number. So the 4 is going to have to get multiplied by the 1, giving you this, and then it's also going to have to be multiplied by this 1. It's going to give you another number. So 4 times this 1 gives you 4. You're going to write that one in front, giving you a 44. So it's a little bit different than addition and subtraction. In addition and subtraction, we just dealt with what's directly above in each column. With multiplication, things are a little bit different because this 4 has to be multiplied by each digit above. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to work left and we're going to keep multiplying. 4 times 1 gave me 4. 4 times this 1 gave me this 4. So the answer was 44. And that's why we're going to do a lot of problems in this section to make it really clear. 13 times 2. Well, first we're going to write the 13 on top because it's bigger, and we're going to write the 2 on the bottom, and we're going to push the 2 over to the right, okay? And we're going to start in the right-hand column. 2 times 3 gives you 6. You should remember that from your times table, so we write it down, and we're done. But now we need to multiply 2 times 1 because we need to multiply by this 1 here. 2 times 1 gives us 2. So the answer is 26. So basically, every digit you have, you've got to multiply by each digit like this and keep adding the numbers down here. So you'll get 26. So you see, 13 times 2 is probably nothing that you would ever memorize in a multiplication table. You probably don't remember what that is. But using some very simple multiplication that you do remember, you can get the answer. So we're going to build on that. We're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're going to work more complicated problems, and you're going to get the hang of how to do this really, really easily. Okay, so what if you had 12 times 8? Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 12 on the top and the 8 on the bottom. Okay, just like we always do. And I'm going to work with the right-hand column first. 8 times 2, you should remember from your times tables, is 16. Okay, now here's where we get into something a little bit more complicated. Because it's 2 digits, okay, because it's 2 digits, you can't just write the whole thing down here. 8 times 2 gives you 16, but just like in the addition problems, you put the 6 up there, or down there I should say, okay, and you got to put the 1 somewhere, but I don't want you to put it down here. I want you to put the 1 up here, up above, okay? So 8 times 2 gave me 16, but it's 2 digits, so I don't want to write them down there. I write the rightmost digit here and put the 1 up there, okay? Now, pay very close attention to what we're doing here. We're going to do the same thing that we did before. 8 times 1 gives me 8, okay? But there's a 1 here, so what do I do? What you do is you say 8 times 1 gives me 8, plus this 1 gives me 9. So I'll put a 9 down here. 8 times 12 is 96, okay? That is how you do it. Anytime you have a number here, 8 times 2, it's going to give you 16. You put the 6 here, let's say. You put the 1 up here, and then when you get around to multiplying this guy right here, you do the multiplication. 8 times 1 is 8, but then you add this number here. Plus 1 gives me 9. Okay? So it's a little bit different than the addition problems. You have to be real careful to make sure that you're doing the right thing here. And we're going to work a ton of problems to make sure that you understand how to do that. Okay, so if you don't get it quite in the beginning, don't worry about it. Keep watching. Okay? What if we had 22 times 9? What do we do next? Let's write the 22 on the top, okay, the bigger number. Let's write the 9 on the bottom, like this, okay? Let's go ahead and work in this column. 9 times 2 gives me 18 from your multiplication tables. 9 times 2 gives me 18. But 18 is too big to write here. It's 2 digits, so I'm going to put the 8 here, and I've got to put that 1 somewhere, so I'm going to put that 1 up here on top of the column to the left, okay? So 9 times 2 gives me 18, okay? Okay, let's move on. Let's take 9 times this 2, because remember, you have to keep multiplying over like this. 9 times 2, what does that give you? It gives you 18, but then you have to add this 1, which gives you 19. So you put 19 down, like this, okay? So basically, you do everything the same as before, multiplying like you do, but anytime you have to write one of these numbers up there, you just make sure and add that to it after you do the multiplication. So 9 times 2 gave us 18, put a 1 up there, and then 9 times this 2 gave us another 18, but we had to add 1, giving us 19. So we had 198. Okay? What if you had 36 times 4? Okay? We're going to write 36 on the top because it's the bigger number, and we're going to write 4 on the bottom. And we're going to do multiplication here. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on the right-hand side. 6 times 4, you should remember from your times tables, is 24. But 24 is too many digits, so you don't want to write that down. So you put the 4 down, and you have to put the 2 somewhere because you're trying to write 24. 6 times 4 is 24, but you put the 2 right above the next column. So you had to write 6 times 4 is 24. We wrote it down just like this, okay? Now let's move on. Let's multiply. 4 times 3 gives you, from your times tables, 12. 4 times 3 gives you 12, but you have to add 2 more. So 12 plus 2 gives you 14. So because 12, 13, 14. So that gives you 14. So you put 14 down, 144. That's the answer. So again, 6 times 4 gives 24. Put the 4 down, put the 2 up here, just like before. Now 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 gives us the 14. And basically, once you know this rule, all of the problems are done exactly the same. There's no more tricks in multiplication. If you know your times tables, and you know these tricks that they're not really tricks, if you know the rules, then you're going to be able to multiply any two numbers together as long as you just take your time with it, okay? Okay, now let's go for something a little bit more challenging. Let's say you have 51 times 21, okay? So let's go ahead and write the bigger number on the top, 51, and we'll write 21 on the bottom, like this, okay? Now, the only difference between this problem and the last is that this number on the bottom is 2 digits long, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to start by multiplying these numbers here, just like before, and then after that you're going to multiply these numbers, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. 1 times 1 gives me 1, okay? 1 times 5 gives me 5. So I just write that down, okay? Now, the only thing you really have to remember, okay, is that before you start multiplying these guys, when you move down to the next line, you have to put a 0 here. So put a 0 down. We'll explain why later, okay? But just go ahead and do that. Now 2 times 1 gives you 2. I'll put that one there. And then 2 times 5 gives you 10. And I'll put that down there, okay? So you draw a line, and now you have two numbers, 51 and 1020. Now you just add these up. So now you have two numbers, one on top of each other, and all you have to do now is add them up. 1 plus 0 gives you 1. 5 plus 2 gives you 7. 0 plus 0 gives you 0. 1 plus 0 gives you 1. So it's 1071 is the answer. So this is an example of two numbers multiplied together that you would never remember just by multiplication table. You would never know. But using the rules, you can multiply any two numbers together. When you have more than one digit on the bottom, you start at the right. 1 times 1 gives you 1. 1 times 5 gives you 5. Okay, you're done with this digit. Now you move to here. But before you start multiplying, you have to put a 0 down. Put a 0 in this column. 2 times 1 gives you 2. 2 times 5 gives you 10. And then you add these up. Okay? And the reason you have to add the 0 here, by the way, is because this 2 is off to the left. It's worth more than this 1 is. And so anytime you have more digits here, you're going to have to add more zeros before you add them all up. We're going to do some more problems, and you'll see exactly how to do that. But this 0 is very important. If you didn't put the 0 here, you'd get the complete wrong answer. And then whenever you get the two numbers here that you have done the individual multiplications on, you just add them up, and you get the final answer. Okay? Let's do that again, because that can seem a little bit complicated, but let's do that again, and we'll get the hang of it here. Okay. 19 times 13. Okay? How would we do that? 19 on the top, 13 on the bottom, like this, okay? We start in the right-hand column. 3 times 9 is 27. So we can't obviously write 27 down here, so I'm going to put the 7, okay? And then I'm going to put the 2 somewhere. The 2 has to go here, okay? Has to go on top of the other column, okay? Now, 3 times 1 gives me 3, plus 2 more gives me 5, okay? So this is going to be a 5, okay? So basically, I've taken this 3 and I've multiplied by both of the numbers on the top, so I'm basically done with that, okay? Now I'll put a 0 here, because anytime I start multiplying by the next number over, I've got to put a 0, okay? 1 times 9 gives me 9, and 1 times 1 gives me a 1. Now this 2 here has nothing to do with this multiplication, okay? Because remember, we only put this 2 because of the 9 times 3 gave us the 27. So you basically totally ignore it and just forget about it when you're working with the other multiplication over here. So 1 times 1 gives us 1, okay? Now, the next thing you do after that is you draw your line, you have to add these two numbers together. 7 plus 0 gives you 7. 5 plus 9 gives you 14. You just remember that from your addition. So because it's 14, we have to put a 4 down here, carry the 1 over, okay? And then 1 plus 1 gives you 2. If this addition is causing some confusion for you, then go back to the previous section of the video that talks about adding and subtracting, numbers, and then you'll see how to do that. But this is basically what you do here. So the answer is 247, but the rules are the same. 9 times 3 gave us 27, okay? And then we had to go ahead and put a 2 up here because we have the 2 and the 7. 3 times 1 gave us 3, add the 2 gives you a 5, okay? Then we put a 0, we started multiplying this. 9 times 1 gave us 9, 1 times 1 gave us 1. This 2 has nothing to do with this multiplication of the 1, so we don't even touch that. The 1 goes here, and then we just add these up and we get 247. Okay. I think we're getting the hang of things. Let's go ahead and do another few two-digit problems. Okay. What we're going to have is, let's try 27 times 37. Okay? 27 times 37. So you would have 27 on the top, 37 on the bottom. Okay? We're going to go ahead and do this multiplication. Okay? 7 times 7 from the previous section of the video on using your multiplication tables is going to give you 49. So I'm going to have 9, and I'm going to go ahead and write the 4 up here above the other column. Okay? 7 times 7 gives you 49, so I had to put the 4 up there. Now I'm going to multiply this times this. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 4 more gives me 18. 14 plus 4 gives me 18, so I write the 18 down. Now I'm going to move to this digit. When I do that, I'm going to have to put a 0 here. 3 times 7, I'm going to erase this now, this 4, because it isn't going to affect this multiplication of the 3. 3 times 7 is 21. 21 is 2 digits, so I can't write that down. So I'm going to put a 1 here, and I'm going to put the 2 up here because I'm trying to write 21 down. Okay? Now, 3 times 2 gives you 6, plus 2 more gives you 8. So you put the 8 down. Now you have these two numbers, you got to add them up. 9 plus 0 gives you 9. 8 plus 1 gives you 9, and 1 plus 8 gives you 9. So the answer is 999, and you do it exactly the same as you've done the other problems. Start with the right, multiply like this, write down what you're going to do, and then whenever you have to carry, you do 7 times 2, for instance, was 14, and so on. And then notice that we erased the initial thing because what it was before was 7 times 7 gave us 49. Initially there was a 4 up here, and then 7 times 2 is 14, plus the 4 gave us the 18. Don't forget that whenever you go on and do the next digit in the multiplication, that this 4 that you wrote has absolutely no meaning whenever you do this next multiplication, okay? It's only because of that first multiplication, so that's when we use it. Okay. Let's go on and do 62 times 80, okay? 62 times 80. 62 times 80, okay? Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to start in the right-hand column, just like before. 0 times 2 gives you 0, okay? 0 times 6 gives you 0. That's pretty easy. Everything gives you 0. Now we're going to move on and multiply using 8. And because we're doing that, we're going to have to put a 0 here before we can get started. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 is too big to write here, so you have to put one digit here, the 6, and I'm going to carry the 1 up here, okay? 8 times 2 gave me 16, had to put the 1 up here. Now, 8 times 6 from your multiplication tables is 48. But 48, don't forget you have to add the 1, gives you 49. So you have to put 49 down there. Draw your line, okay? Now you have two numbers, you add them together. Well, 0 plus 0 gives you 0. 6 plus 0 gives you 6. And you're just going to have to copy this 49 down because you're just adding 0 to it. So 4,690. So you see, once you get the hang of it, the rules are not terribly difficult. Not terribly difficult. What if you had 123 times 13? Okay, how would you do that? 123 times 13. Okay, same thing. You start at the right and go from there. 3 times 3 gives you 9. Okay, 3 times 2 gives you 6. 3 times 1 gives you 3. So you multiplied each digit by what we had on the bottom. Now we're going to move on to this digit, and because we're going to do that, we have to put a 0 there. Okay? 1 times 3 gives me 3. 1 times 2 gives us 2. 1 times 1 gives us 1. Easy enough. Now we just add these two giant numbers together. 9 plus 0 give us 9. 6 plus 3 give us 9. 3 plus 2 give us 5. And 1 plus 0 give you 1. 1,599. If these problems are, if you need a little bit more time to let it soak in, just rewind and watch it again. You start in the right column, 3 times 3 is 9, and you just work your way over writing it down, and you move to the next digit. But because you do that, you have to put a 0 here, and then you do all of these, writing all that down, and then you just add the two things together. Okay? So you can see that by using this method and doing it like this, you'll be able to multiply any two numbers together. So let's do that now. 504 times 21. Okay, so we write the bigger number on the top and the smaller number on the bottom. Okay, so we're going to start in the right-hand column. 1 times 4 gives you 4. 1 times 0 gives you 0. Remember, anything times 0 gives you 0. 1 times 5 gives you 5. Okay? Now, we're going to move over to this digit. So we're going to put a 0 here. 2 times 4 gives you 8. 2 times 0 gives you 0. 2 times 5 gives you 10. And when you get to the end here, you have no choice but to write the number down. So you draw a line and you add these two things up. 4 plus 0 gives you 4. 8 plus 0 gives you 8. 5 plus 0 gives you 5. Just take your 0 down here. 0 plus 0 gives you 0, and 1 plus 0 is going to give you 1. So the answer here is 10,584. It's a very big number, okay? 504 times 21. But when you think about it, what you have here is 504 groups of something, and each group has 21 things in it. So when you add all that together, it's going to come out to a big number. It's going to come out to this here. But again, the method is the same. Start from this digit, multiply like this, write your numbers down, put a 0 when you move to the next digit, and do this multiplication, and then you just add them up. And if you have to do any carryover, you just make sure and do that too. Okay. Now we're going to move into a little bit more challenging problem, but really it's the same. 267 times 136. So we're going to write 267 on top, 136 on the bottom, and we're going to do this multiplication. Okay, now given a problem like this, we want to go ahead and start like we always do, and we want to start in the right-hand column and begin to multiply all these numbers by this digit here. So this times this times this, and this times this, and we'll just go from there. So let's start from there. What's 7 times 6? You'll go back and look at your times tables, and that's going to be 42. But 42 is too big to write down here because it's 2 digits. So we'll put the 2 right there, and what we'll go ahead and do is we'll just put the 4 up above in the column to the left. So we'll write 42. We just write it like this instead of writing it down there like that. Okay, now we move on and multiply the next guy. Okay, now we move on to the next thing. 6 times 6 is 36, okay, but we have to add this 4 to it. Remember what we do is we go 6 times 6 is 36 and add whatever's on the top here. So 36 plus 4 is 40, okay, and you can do that on your fingers. 36 plus 4 is 40. So what we'll do is put the 0 down here, okay, and we can't put the 4 down here for 40. We have to put the 4 up here, over in the next column, because if you're going to write 2 digits like that, you need to write it over in the next column. So 6 times 6 gave us 36, plus 4 gave us 40, and then we just write it in the next column like this, 4 and then 0. Okay, now we continue multiplying. 6 times 2 in this digit gives us 12. 12. 6 times 2 is 12, but then we have to add this 4. Okay, so 12 plus 4 is going to give us 16, right? If you do that on your fingers, 12 plus 4 is going to give us 16. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to write 16, okay? 16. Now I can write the 2 digits down here because there's nothing else left in the problem here. So basically you can write the 2 digits down when there's no other digits up here. So I'm going to go ahead and write the 16 down, okay? So we're basically done. You know, 6 times 7 gave us 42. Put the 4 up there and the 2 down there. 6 times 6 gave us 36. Add the 4 and just keep on going on to the left. And we're done with this digit here. Now we have to go and multiply everything times this digit. So we'll go ahead and we'll add our 0 in, like we've always been doing when we start working with the next digit over. And we'll start to multiply all the digits by the 3. Okay? So 3 times 7 gives us 21. But 21 is too many digits to write down here. So I'm going to put the 1 down, and I'm going to put the 2 up here. Okay? Now, I'm putting it in a different color just to kind of keep it straight, because this 4 and this 4 here, they were only you only use those because you were multiplying by the 6. Now you basically ignore these guys and don't even use those at all when you continue on in the problem. So let's continue. 6 times 3 is going to give us 18, right? 18, but we have to add the 2. Remember, this 4 has nothing to do with it. That was left over from before. So 6 times 3 gives us 18 plus 2. 18 plus 2, 19, 20. It gives us 20. Okay? So we're going to write 20 down. So we're going to put the 0 here, the 0 in 20, and we're going to have to put that 2 somewhere. So let's go ahead and put that 2 up there. Okay? Like that in the next column. So we're done with that one. So now let's move on. 3 times 2 gives us 6, right? But we have to add 2 because remember this 2 is here. This 4 is no longer involved. It was left over from before. So 3 times 2 gives us 6 plus 2 gives us 8. So we have an 8 there, okay? So we have an 8 there. Okay, now we're done multiplying everything by 3. So we're going to have to move over and deal with this digit, the 1 digit. Before we can do that, we have to put not 1 0, but 2 zeros. Okay, because we're dealing with this digit here, we have to add 2 more zeros, and now we can start multiplying. So 1 times 7, this is pretty easy, gives us 7. 1 times 6 is pretty easy, gives us 6. 1 times 2 is pretty easy, it gives us 2. And you guys should all remember anything times 1 gives you itself. Okay? And now that we have all these numbers here, to get the final answer, we just add them up. Okay? 2 plus 0, I think you all know, is just going to give you a 2, because anything plus 0 is itself. 0 plus 1 plus 0 is going to be easy. It's going to give you a 1. 6 plus 0 plus 7. Basically what you have to do here is add 6 plus 7, so you can start with 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's going to give you 13. And in order to remember how you add these things, it's 2 digits, so you can't write it all down here. So you write the 3, and what you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up writing a 1 kind of up here, like this, when you're adding these things together here, okay? And so whenever when you add this column here, you need to remember to add that 1 in, okay? So 8 plus 1 gives you 9, plus 1 more gives you 10, and then 10 plus 6 is simply 16, okay? And let's do that again. 8 plus 9 is 8 plus 1 is 9, and then plus 1 more gives you 10, and then 10 plus 6, you can do that on your fingers, gives you 16. So in order to do that, we're going to put the 6 down in 16, and we're going to add, in another color to help you out here, we're going to add another 1 here to kind of show you, this is the 1 coming from the 16. And then you just go 1 plus 2 gives you 3. Okay, so the answer is 36,312, and that would be the answer when you multiply 267 times 136. So you see it's pretty methodical. You start in the right-hand column and you start multiplying like this, and anytime you get a 2-digit number, when you have a digit left here in the top, you just write the right-hand digit and carry the other one down up at the top, and then when you do a multiplication with the number on top here, you multiply, but then you add the number on top like we did here. Okay, and then when you move to the next digit, you have to add a 0 before doing all the multiplication, and then when you move to the next digit, you have to add 2 zeros before doing the multiplication. And when you finally do all that, then you add everything up using the rules of addition that we already learned previously, okay, to arrive at the answer. Okay? So we're getting here into the problems that are really the trickiest, kind of the hardest problems in multiplication, really, because you have a lot of digits. The longer the problem is, the more digits you're going to have, and the harder it's really going to be. Okay, and I really hesitate to say it's not really any harder. It's more work. Okay, so it's really the same thing you're doing. We're going to do one last problem here in multiplication, just to make sure that we've got it all practiced. And that's going to be 310 times 455. Okay, how would we do that? First, we're going to write it on one on top of each other. Okay, 310 times 455, and we're multiplying. Okay, so again, we're going to start in the right-hand column, and we're going to kind of multiply like this. Okay, so 5 times 0, using your times tables, is going to give you 0, because anything times 0 gives you 0. Okay, 5 times 1 is going to give you, anything times 1 gives you itself, so that's going to be 5. 5 times 1 is going to give you 5. And then 5 times 3, when you think back to your multiplication tables, is just going to give you 15. So if you don't remember that, just look that in your tables. And there's no more digits up here, so I can go ahead and write the entire 15 down. Okay? Like this. Okay? Now we're done with multiplying everything by this 5. Okay? We want to move on and multiply everything by this number, the next digit in there. But before we can do that, we have to add our nice friendly 0 down. 1 0 because we're moving one digit to the left. Okay? Now, 5 times 0, again, is going to give you 0. 5 times 1, again, is going to give you 5. And 5 times 3, again, is going to give you 15. And notice I'm lining the digits up, so everything's lined up perfectly. Okay? Now we want to move to the 4, which is 2 digits, so I have to add 2 zeros. Okay? Now I can multiply by 4. 4 times 0 is going to give me 0. 4 times 1 is going to give me 4. And 4 times 3 is going to give me 12. Okay? 4 times 3 is going to give me 12. So I write that down. And now that I have all of this stuff written down, I need to add them up. So 0 plus 0 plus 0 is simply going to give you 0. 5 plus 0 is just going to give you 5. 5 plus 5 plus 0 is just going to do the same thing as 5 plus 5, which is going to give you 10. And just from your rules of addition, you know that when you add a number up and you have some numbers off to the left like this, and you get a 2-digit number, you can't write the 2 digits down. So in order to write the 10, I'm going to put a 0 there, okay, and I'm going to kind of put another, kind of like a little 1 up there to kind of remind me I'm carrying a 1 here. Okay. Now I've got to add this column. Okay. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 5 is going to give me 7, and then 7 plus 4 is going to give me 11. And you can kind of do that on your fingers, but you've got 5 plus 2 more gives you 7. 7 plus 4, starting at 7, gives you 8, 9, 10, 11. So that gives you 11. Again, same thing. I've got 2 digits, so I'm going to have to put the 1 digit down like this, and I'm going to carry another 1 up here into the next column. Okay? Now I'm going to add this column. 1 plus 1 gives you 2, and then plus another 2. 2 plus 2, as you know, is going to give you 4. So I'm going to put a simple 4 down here. Move into the last column. You've got nothing above it, so it's kind of like a 0. And you just put the 1 down. 1 plus 0 is going to give you 1. So the answer is going to be 141,050. Okay? So the only thing that you really need to be aware of when you're doing these multiplication problems, you now have the tools to be able to multiply any 2 numbers of any size. Okay? You can multiply a 10-digit number by a 17-digit number, but the rule is going to be the same. You start in the right-hand column and take that last digit and multiply by everything in the top. Okay? When you're done doing that multiplication, you move to the next digit. But when you do that multiplication, you need to add a single 0 and then go ahead and do your multiplication again, right to left. Okay? And then when you move to the next digit, you add 2 zeros and then do your multiplication right to left. If you had if you had a whole bunch of other digits out here, every digit you would go to the left to multiply, you'd have to add that many zeros in the bottom. When you finally have all of the numbers written down here, then you just simply add them up. Okay? You simply add them up. And that is how you add, that is how you multiply numbers of any length. And what you need to do at this point is just practice, 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 and I promise you it'll be second nature and you'll get really, really good at it.